2-year-old in Tokyo right now taking off her own shoes, placing them carefully in a cubby, slipping into her indoor pair, hanging up her jacket, storing her bag, and bowing to greet her teacher all before her parent has even turned to leave. No one helped her. No one was going to. And the most remarkable part? She expected that. She always has. Now picture a different child. Same age, different country. Her parent carries her bag, removes her coat, hands her off to a teacher who immediately redirects a conflict she's having with another child. Nobody expects her to wait, to clean, to resolve anything on her own. And most days, she doesn't have to. By the time both of these children are 6 years old, they will be measurably different in how they handle frustration, conflict, independence, and cooperation. Not because one was smarter, not because one had better parents, but because the system that raised them during those early years was built on a completely different belief about what children actually are. Welcome to Bloom School by Sora, where we take research, science, and real-world knowledge and turn it into something you can actually understand and use. Today, we're going inside one of the most studied early childhood systems in the world, the Japanese Hoikuen, and what we find there will make you rethink almost everything about how the West raises its youngest children. The word Hoikuen translates to nurturing garden. And in Japan, this isn't an alternative philosophy or a boutique approach for progressive parents. It is the standard. According to Japan's Ministry of Education, over 95% of 5-year-olds in Japan attend one. This is how an entire nation of 120 million people raises its children. And researchers from Harvard, Oxford, and universities across the world have been studying these centers for decades, trying to understand exactly what they're doing differently and why it works so well. So let me walk you through a single day. Beck, DBS, the philosophy isn't written on any wall. It lives in the small moments. The morning begins early. Most Hoikuen open by 7. Children typically arrive by bike in dense cities like Tokyo. Cars are simply impractical, and the very first moment of the day already signals something. When a child walks through that front door, the parent does not undress them, does not swap their shoes, does not carry their bag inside. The child does every single one of those things themselves. Outdoor shoes off, placed in the cubby. Indoor shoes on. Jacket hung. Bag stored. A formal greeting offered to the teacher. 2-year-olds. Every morning. Without assistance. To a Western eye, this looks strict, maybe even cold. It is neither. It is a system communicating something to that child from their very first day. You are capable. We believe that. We expect it of you. Every child also carries something called an Ikujiniki, a small notebook, a childcare diary. Before drop-off, the parent writes in it. Before pickup, the teacher writes back. How the child slept, what they ate, any emotional shifts, anything happening at home. It sounds like a simple detail. It isn't. This notebook is the infrastructure of a relationship, a continuous written daily record of a child's inner life, shared between the two adults responsible for them, in real detail, every single day. Western daycares almost never do this. The Hoikuen treats it as non-negotiable. Then comes what the Japanese call jiwasobi, free play. But here is where things get genuinely interesting, because free play in a Japanese childcare center doesn't look like what we typically mean by it. The teachers don't lead it. They don't structure it. They don't redirect it. They watch, sometimes for hours. This is rooted in a principle called Mimamoru, to watch over without intervening. Japanese early childhood educators are trained to believe that stepping in too quickly is not protective. It is, in fact, harmful, because it vests the opportunity the child needs most. The chance to figure something out entirely on their own. Now here is the detail that stops most Western observers cold. When children fight in a Hoikuen, and they do, of course they do, when one grabs a toy, when one shoves another, when one begins to cry, the teachers often do nothing. They watch, they wait, they hold back. They allow the children to navigate it themselves. A Western parent watching this might call it neglect. But Joseph Tobin, an American anthropologist who spent years filming preschools in Japan, the United States, and China for his landmark study Preschool in 3 cultures, documented exactly this dynamic. American teachers shown footage of Japanese classrooms were frequently disturbed. Japanese teachers shown footage of American classrooms were frequently baffled by how quickly adults inserted themselves into children's disputes. But here is the data that matters. By age 6, children coming out of the Japanese system, dramatically stronger abilities in conflict resolution, emotional regulation, and group cooperation than their American and Chinese counterparts. The non-intervention was not neglect, it was training. Thousands of small, low-stakes rehearsals for one of the hardest skills a human being ever develops working through something hard with another person. I want to pause here and be honest with you. Japan is not a parenting paradise. Japanese culture carries its own pressures, its own anxieties, its own failures. I'm not presenting this as a model to copy. I'm presenting it because the underlying philosophy reveals something important, something that the science of child development is only now beginning to articulate clearly. Then comes lunch, and lunch in a Hoikuen is its own education. Kyushoku, the school meal, is cooked fresh on site every day by a licensed nutritionist. Rice, miso soup, fish, vegetables, fruit. No processed food. No shortcuts. But what happens around that meal is what matters. The older children help serve the younger ones. Nobody begins eating until every person in the room, including the teachers who eat the identical meal, has been served. Then a small chant, a small bow, a communal expression of gratitude. Only then do they eat, together. And if there are leftovers, a slice of apple, a piece of bread, the children play janken, rock, paper, scissors, to win them. What looks like a game is actually a daily rehearsal in patience, fairness, turn-taking, and gracefully accepting an outcome that didn't go your way. Repeated every single day for years. Until it is not a skill, until it is simply who you are. After the meal, the children clean their plates, their tables, their crumbs. Older children help younger ones. And here is the detail I could not stop thinking about when I first encountered this system. Japanese Hoikuen do not have janitors. The teachers and the children clean the school themselves. Floors, bathrooms, windows. Chair cleaning your environment is not a chore to be avoided. It is an act of respect for the space, for the people who share it, for yourself. When a child spends years cleaning their own school, they grow into an adult who understands something most Western adults only learn the hard way. The world around you is your responsibility. That is not a rule they memorized. That is a worldview they absorbed. And this is the pattern I want to make sure you've noticed across everything I've described. The shoes, the notebook, the watching, the lunch, the cleaning. None of these are lessons. None involve a lecture or a worksheet. The children are not being explicitly taught responsibility or resilience or cooperation. They are being placed, again and again, in an environment that quietly requires those qualities, thousands of times, until the qualities are no longer practiced, they are simply present. Western developmental psychologists now have a name for this. They call learning the way deep character traits are absorbed not through instruction, but through repeated lived experience. Japan has been doing this for well over a century. The neuroscience explaining why it works is only catching up now. So here is what a Japanese childcare center is actually built on, at its core. Not the practices, those are just the surface. The premise underneath is this. Children are not fragile. They are not helpless. They are not waiting to be taught. They are already capable. The adult's job is to trust that capacity and step back just enough for it to grow. Most Western childcare operates on almost the exact opposite premise. That children are vulnerable. That every difficult moment is an emergency requiring adult intervention. That managing them is the same as raising them. The difference between those two premises doesn't sound that significant when you read it on a page, but lived out across thousands of small moments over years, it produces 2 genuinely different kinds of adults. That's worth sitting with. This has been Bloom School by Sora. If something in this video made you stop, if one moment made you think about how you were raised, or how you're raising someone else, tell me in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. I read every single one. If you found this valuable, subscribe, because we do this kind of deep dive research content every week, and I'll see you in the next one.